Good morning, everyone. Okay, we'll continue with our book reading today. Toyota Way to Service Excellence by Jeffrey K. Leica and Karen Rose. And we are in chapter 10, and the last chapter for this book says The Long Journey to Customer Focused Learning Organization. So far, we're looking at the 4 P's of Lean Principle in Toyota, which is philosophy, processes, people, and problem solving. In philosophy, we looked at long-term thinking, and the principle 1 for philosophy is passionately pursue purpose based on guiding values. Remember, it's telling us the story of National Taxi, Limo in New York, and how they've been applying this principle. We also looked at processes, the second P, one of the 4 P's, which says flow value to each customers, and we looked at deeply understanding customer need, striving for one piece flow, strive for leveled work pattern, response to customer pull, and principle 6 and 7, where we looked at stabilize and continually adopt work pattern and manage visually to see actual versus standard. Where we read yesterday, seen on processes, talked about building in quality at each step, And what we learned here yesterday is that if your customers are your top priority, you will look for ways to actually build in quality at each step. Whatever experience you want them to have, whatever problem you're trying to solve for them, you want them to have an excellent experience with you. Today on page 371, we're looking at the third P, which is people. The third P, which is people. And we're looking at, and it says challenge, engage, and grow. Challenge, engage, and grow. I said principle 10 says organize to balance deep expertise and customer focus. Organize to balance deep expertise and customer focus. Still talking about NTL, that is National Taxi Limo. So when I first started working with NTL, the partners' roles and responsibilities were vogue at best. Everyone would do everything, and this seemed like it might work until NTL actually started dispatching. Once it began, Joe realized that he and Todd and Ken needed to have a better division of company responsibilities. As noted earlier, the taxi business is a 24-hour-a-day one, and in order to make sure that rides weren't missed because the person who was scheduled to answer the phone fell asleep, the partners needed to create a daily schedule of who was responsible for intake and who was responsible for dispatch. They also realized that they needed to each take primary responsibility for a business area so that tasks such as bookkeeping and marketing were completed in a timely manner. Joe became the VIP of operations, Todd became the treasurer and VIP of finance, and Ken became the president. Ken, who has the greatest access to potential driver partners from his long tenure in the taxi industry, is responsible for working with the driver partners to make sure they have the correct airports and local coverage. Todd, who has a background in business, is responsible for keeping all the finances in order, including ensuring that NTL is reaching its daily ride goals so that all the driver partners and the business are taken care of financially. Joe, who enjoys analytic and web design, takes care of the app, website, and advertising, and is in charge of finding ways to get a new customer for business. Joe is often the dispatcher as well. The three daily hurdles came out of this division of labor to make sure that the partners were communicating and working together. They determined that they would have three quick daily check ins or hurdles, two dispatch hurdles to make sure their driver partners were organized and on track to pick up all customers on time, and one midday operation hurdle with all three partners to make sure that revenue and other goals were being met each day. Each partner is also responsible for completing a standard set of daily tasks as well as updating the visual management spreadsheet at the weekly partner meetings. So far, this has been working well to balance customers' need and ensure that each partner is working in an area that is his strength. As Joe says, once we decide to split out our organization this way, it really helped us make sure that every ride is on time, every time, and that we are working together. Principle 11 says develop a deliberate culture. Taxi culture isn't always the most pleasant one. Joe said to me when I first started working with NTL, there can be a lot of yelling and bad communication, and people don't trust each other because they think other drivers are going to steal their rides. That's not what we want our culture to be like at NTL though, but I'm not sure how to make sure that doesn't happen to us. I really want us to be successful at creating a different kind of culture where people care about each other and work together to take care of the customers. But I'm not sure how to do that. It's going it's not going to be easy, I said. The people that you are working with are used to the old taxi culture, but it can be done. Remember your challenge statement. Every ride on time, every time, working together. You're going to have to make sure that every decision you make and every interaction you have will support the challenge statement. And you're going to have to make sure that Todd and Ken understand that as well. When problems happen, and they are going to happen all the time, you're going to have to create your culture of working together by working together to solve those problems. Joe smiled and nodded, but I wondered if he really understood. Luckily, a day or so later, we had an opportunity to turn theory into deliberate practice. When I got a text message from Joe about a situation that had happened earlier that day. A customer had complained to one of the NTL suppliers about one of NTL's drivers. The customer hadn't liked the way the driver partner was driving, and the supplier was threatening to stop sending its overflow rides on NTL. I'm not sure how to handle this, Joe said to me when I gave him a call. I'm not used to having this kind of conversation. In the past, I would just ignore the problem or yell. That never really helped anyone though, and it's definitely not the kind of culture we want. So far, next half hour, Joe and I talked through the different strategies it could take to deal with the driver partners and suppliers so that they could work together. Once Joe settled on the approach, talking first with the driver partner and then with the supplier, Joe and I practiced both conversations until he felt comfortable that he knew what he was going to say. Joe then decided that he would have both conversations the next day when everyone was fresh and some time had passed, so that any initial anger will dissipate. Okay, this is where we'll stop for our reading this morning. People now, and it said challenge, engage, and grow. So organize to balance deep expertise and customer focus. Here we saw how they did division of labor, each to what each to his own ability and what he'll be able to do for the company or his own operation, or what your job or responsibility is. They looked at their strengths and their weaknesses and know that okay, this is what who and who will put in this kind of place. So it balanced every other thing in their company. So that challenge was over. That was how they organized to balance and deep expertise on they were customer focused. Then principle 11 said develop a deliberate culture. So even if it was hard, somehow they tried to develop a deliberate culture. So this is all stuff for our reading this morning. Thank you.